in game. I can't even pull it up on YouTube and show it because I can't get this program to minimize itself. Anyways, I'll go back and show it to you guys, but they pull a bomb out of pause and they throw it out over the ocean. And Huey, who we remember meeting in Peace Walker, the father of Otacon, gets on the radio and tells Big Boss that the inspectors have showed up at Outer Heaven. Whatever you missed, Mountain Dew, you're going to get to see it here in a few minutes, because I'm going to have to replay this scene.
Do you copy? Can't get through. The link seems fine, but...
inspection was nothing but a smokescreen. I heard explosions, then... They played us like a damn fiddle! Give it back! This isn't right, that was ours! We built it, damn it! You spying bitch! Come on, start talking, bitch! Come on, get up and start talking!
Bob, there's...
It's all right, we got it out.
There's another in my... Your favorite song? Nicola, Bart, immigrants wrongly executed. But their deaths served as a message to others. That ours is a society that murders the innocent. Do you too believe your sacrifice will change the world?
Okay. So, some pretty heavy stuff there. Metal Gear Solid 5, easily the most adult of the series. Somebody set us up. Somebody set up this whole UN inspection, and then the UN comes out and says, we never did the inspection, we were never there. So clearly it's the Cypher Forces, right? Or this Zoff, this XOF, that this skull-faced dude is leading. Super weird, right? So they go in and they take out Mother Base, right? Which was or HQ. Right, Billy. So Ground Zeroes is... So we mentioned it in my intro, but in Metal Gear 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3, we see... Well, Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3, because Metal Gear 2 is a different game. We see that Kojima likes to do prologues and then the full game. So you have a tanker mission in Metal Gear 2, and then you have the Big Shell stuff. And then Metal Gear Solid 3, you have the Virtuous mission, and then you have the Snake Eater mission. Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain were supposed to be prologue After Effect, but it's clear that Konami needed money because of the exhaustive cost of development for Metal Gear Solid 5. So they demanded that the prologue he had already finished be released as its own standalone $30 game. Really pissed off fans quite a lot, and the person who took the brunt of that hate was Kojima. But this was Ground Zeroes. Very quick. It's a glorified tech demo. But it is crucial because it sets up the events of what happens in Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. $30 was a bit much. I think $15 would have made everybody happy in the situation. So to talk about what happens with Paz there. So we initially get in and Paz has a bomb in her gut. I do believe, just due to symbolism, because Paz is female, and just knowing kind of the angle that they were going with here, my personal theory is that the second bomb was placed in her womb, for a few reasons. Because of the way her head was shaved, the way she was being treated, I feel that this game was trying to rob her of her womanhood, I guess, is the best way to put it. And clearly the game leaves out exactly where the bomb was placed, because it's for you to surmise. But I think from a symbolism point of view, I believe it was placed in the womb, and I believe because they already cut her open, I think they just did surgery. The womb lies lower than the upper intestine where they pulled out the first bomb. I think they surgically placed it. Fucked up that Paz didn't tell us when we woke her up by ripping her gut open the first time. But that's my theory. That was my initial impression when she says it's in my and then she jumps out. I always just figured like they had put two bombs while they were doing the same surgery and figured they would find the first bomb and then say screw it and make the second one. But it doesn't matter though. That doesn't really affect the storyline too much. But it's a topic of discussion that comes up every single time that scene is played. I'll see if I'm able to launch just the cinematic so you guys can see that cinematic in one playthrough without it being interrupted. If not, when we're switching from Ground Zeroes over to Phantom Pain, I'll actually pull up a YouTube video and show it. I apologize that Ground Zeroes is split up into 2 episodes. For those of you that are watching this in the future, we did have Twitch crash in the middle of the stream. Which totally sucks, because Ground Zeroes is the shortest game in all of Metal Gear history, and there's no reason it needs to be 2 episodes, but it's gonna wind up being 2 episodes. $30, yep. There was a ton of hate, and not without good reason. Should have been 10 to 15, I completely agree. Most of us probably would have paid 100 though if it came to it. It's true. It's true. Yeah, I can't tell you guys how many times I've rebought Metal Gear. Kojima just keeps putting it on a new HD disc, and I just kept buying it. I agree with you, Lady Goggles. It's a common trope in these kind of like torture, kind of horror-esque, and that's really, there was like a total, especially if we look back at the way the Phantom Pain trailer played out, there was definitely like a we're doing a horror game feel. So back before we had confirmation that Phantom Pain was actually Metal Gear Solid 5 when that first trailer at the 2012 Video Game Awards gets aired, it had a very horror theme to it. Almost Silent Hill even, which is ironic because he was working on Silent Hills at the time, or was talking about it at least. There's definitely this horror feel, and in horror games and stories, robbing people of their identity is a big horror element. And that's the reason why I think that second bomb was planted in her womb. It's her whole existence was about peace through violence. And to call her the mother of that violence and have the bomb be her baby in her womb, it's all too poetic. In a really fucked up way, right? There's a song in MGS5 that is obviously Silent Hill inspired. Yeah, obviously. Actually, there's a really cool Easter egg. We find a song in Metal Gear Solid 5, and the name of the song is these numbers. And if you go back and you play PT there and you listen to the radio long enough, there is a series of numbers played over the radio, and those series of numbers in PT is the same series of numbers that is the title of that song you find in Metal Gear Solid 5. There's also a song, blatantly, like just blatantly, the song that is in the background of one of the Silent Hill games is a song you find in Metal Gear Solid 5. Mother of Violence did it exactly. Yeah, it's exactly kind of my thing. They made her, you know, she was being forced to do what she did in Peace Walker. She's being forced to carry this child of peace through violence. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's heavy. Heavy. It's poetic and fucked up.
Cypher's been in hiding ever since his grand experiment. No one's seen him in years. All we hear are orders delivered by proxy. Except you. You met with him, face to face, in order to contact Big Boss. Tell me where he is. Where is Cypher? Where is Zero? I've never known choice. Where I was born, the language I speak, I've never had the freedom to choose for myself. But you, right now, are free. Do as you will.
This will save Big Boss.
It may.
Will you really kill Zero for me?
Not for you.
All right. Zero is...
Zero's what, lady? So here's some historical events of what's happening. La Infanterie project is abandoned. So remember, the Las Infanterie project is the project that takes Big Boss's genomes and creates Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. And I'm going to say something that might end up being a spoiler, but I know it's in 5, for sure, but I think Big Boss has to talk about it in 4. He has to. He has to. Yeah, sorry, I kind of split off there when he started talking, because, and I double-checked it, he's not. The voice actor for Skullface, I actually thought was the voice actor for Arthas in Warcraft 3. It is not him, though.
Let's hit him again. Clear.
This is important. Deceived and left for dead. So, in the Phantom Pain trailer, we're now piecing together that the person who wakes up from that bed, Big Boss.
You've been in a coma for quite some time. Yes, I know. You would like to know how long. I'm afraid it's been 9 years.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer. The body I've lost. The comrades I've lost. Won't stop hurting.
Nine-year coma, and of course, phantom pain is an actual real medical issue for people who have amputations. So this is a story about Big Boss losing his hand and having a prosthetic hand, which this comes from the special edition of Metal Gear Solid 5, and I adore it. It is one of my favorite things in my collection. It's just, I don't know why. It's just a dumb plastic hand. And you can do goofy shit with it, and I think it's cool and awesome, and I love it. But yeah, so phantom pain is a thing that happens with people who have amputations where they can still feel the arm that was amputated, even though it's not there anymore, and they can feel the pain in the arm while it's gone. And that's what phantom pain is a reference to, is Snake losing his hand at the events there in Outer Heaven. So there's not much else to Ground Zeroes. There is some content as far as listening to the tapes and going through and playing variated missions on the same map, but you just keep playing on the same map. It is worth stating that the project that is done that creates Liquid and Solid Snake was canceled years before Metal Gear Solid 5. Clearly we know that it wasn't truly canceled because Solid Snake and Liquid Snake exist. But we discover something about that whole project during this game. Oh, I forgot about this. This is great. Wagner while you're in a helicopter. It's the best. Anybody that's played the game, am I forgetting? Is there anything that's worth doing before we switch over to Metal Gear Solid 5? Not really. That's what I was remembering. Like, a lot of this was just kind of taking what existed in the prologue of Ground Zeroes and shaking it up as much as possible to kind of make that $30 worth it. You do save data upload so that when you play Ground or Phantom Pain, it'll check for your save file. But there we go. So we'll be switching over to Phantom Pain now. Alright, so questions. So hold up. Except Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, I think I know that in Metal Gear Solid, MGS1, MGS 4, you play as Solid Snake, the clone child. The other games, except 2, you play Big Boss. Yeah, so let's go over it again. This is a good time for us to take a break in between the 2 games to recap on it a little bit. So if we're looking here, we got Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. You are playing as Solid Snake. And Metal Gear Solid 1 and Twin Snakes, which is, of course, a remake of that, you're playing as Solid Snake. In Metal Gear Solid 2, you play as Solid Snake during the tanker mission, which is the first 15 minutes. The rest of that game, you play as Raiden, who is supposed to be the next... so the La Enfant Terrible project was to genetically create soldiers that were as good as Big Boss, the most legendary soldier that ever lived, who is the boss of Metal Gear 1 and 2. Those old MSX 1980, 1999, or 1990 titles. Because they couldn't do more genome soldier cloning, Raiden was supposed to be the next, like, Solid Snake, but made through experiences and VR training was their intent. They were trying to make another Big Boss by making him live through those events. And the Big Shell incident was supposed to be a reference to the Shadow Moses incident, which is Metal Gear Solid 1. So then you talk in Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, that is Naked Snake, or who becomes Big Boss. That is the very first piece of story in the entire game series. That is the farthest back date timeline that you can start with, is Metal Gear Solid 3. And then there's Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, which both, because of the events of Metal Gear Solid 4, have been proven to be completely non-canonical. But you play Solid Snake in the first one, and Metal Gear Acid 2, you play a character named Snake, and it's not even Solid Snake, it's not Liquid Snake, it's not Solidus, it's not Old Snake, it's not Naked Snake, it's not Venom Snake, which is the name of the snake in Metal Gear Solid 5. It's nobody. It's just this guy who has the codename Snake. Makes no sense. And when we play Portable Ops, you're playing the sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3. People debate whether or not the events of Portable Ops is canon or not. The canon does exist just fine with the rest of the story. It doesn't hurt it at all, but you are playing Big Boss. Metal Gear Solid 4, you're playing Old Snake, which is Solid Snake, but his cloning has caused aggressive, fast aging. So that is Solid Snake still. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, you're playing Big Boss again. And then Metal Gear Rising, of course, you're playing as Raiden. And then Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain are back to playing Big Boss. So, MG 1, 2, MGS 1, 2, and 4 is all Solid Snake. And then Metal Gear Solid 3, Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and both versions of 5, you're playing as Big Boss. So, it is really just 3 characters. If you take Raiden out of the mix, then you're only playing as Solid Snake, and you're only playing as Big Boss. So that should clear that up pretty well. Yeah, see, my opinion on the whole Portable Ops thing is that Kojima has vacillated, and the last time he said anything about it, he says it's canon if you want it to be, which is really just telling people their headcanon works. But he vacillated. When he was first making it, he called Portable Ops canon, and then he said that it's not really canon, and then he came back and he goes, well, it could be. It is if you want to be. In my opinion, I guess it can be. Like, it doesn't have enough of an impact on the rest of the entire story. And did I have to keep the sales up? Maybe. I don't know. And I mean, he's the only one that really gets to make that decision on whether it's canon or not. You can completely take it out. You can completely leave it in. It doesn't damage the story at all. It's just an extraneous storyline. And until Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, Acid could be the same thing. It could just be one of the missions that Solid Snake went on. But the problem is Metal Gear Solid 4 takes place in 2014, and Metal Gear Acid 1 takes place in 2016, and the Solid Snake you play in Metal Gear Acid 1 is clearly young, while the Solid Snake you play in Metal Gear Solid 4 is clearly old. So once Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, Acid couldn't even be headcanon. It just went out. Correct. Yeah, they did some stuff in MGS5. There's a very cool twist for Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain that we'll see as we progress through the story that absolutely was mind-blowing, and I called it from day one. And it kind of goes back to people thinking this because of the voice change. The voice actor changed to Kiefer Sutherland from David Hayter. But what was even crazier is that twist goes on to change some story from a very old game in the series. So when we get to it, I'll be super excited to tell you guys about it and go over it. It's a really neat twist, and I didn't find out about this twist on top of a twist until I was actually working on this series. We didn't know anything about it, so that was really cool. So I'm gonna update the title and switch this over to